Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our showing of The Pink Panther, 1963, the second selection in our current miniseries, Scintillating Movie Scores. Directed by Blake Edwards, starring Peter Sellers, David Niven, and Robert Wagner. The title of the film refers to Princess Diana's huge pink diamond, which is said to have an inclusion that resembles a leaping pink panther. The signature Pink Panther animated character that resembles and the delightful animated opening title sequence were developed by Hawley Pratt and Fritz Freleng and featured Henry Mancini's iconic Pink Panther theme. The animated character was so popular that it launched a franchise of 11 more films in which the character reappears in all but 2 of them. The movie was a great hit at the box office. Variety called it intensely funny and complimented Sellers' razor-sharp timing. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critical consensus reads, Peter Sellers is at his virtuosically bumbling best. The American Film Institute ranked Mancini's score number 20 on its list of 100 years of film scores. The famous score was composed by Henry Mancini, 1924 to 94, with lyrics by Johnny Mercer. The Pink Panther theme became so recognizable that it was used to accompany any sequence that employs Clouseau in most of the subsequent films. This theme, with accompanying variations, was used at the beginning of all but the first 2 films. Mancini's other compositions for the movie included the music for an Italian-language song called Meglio Stasera, It Had Better Be Tonight, with English lyrics by Mercer, and Italian ones by Franco Migliacci, used to introduce the young actress Fran Jeffries, who played the lounge singer. Another important theme is heard during the climactic chase through the streets of Rome. Most of the remaining tracks are orchestral jazz pieces in the style of the 60s. The soundtrack was nominated for a Grammy and an Oscar, and was later inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. The single of the Pink Panther theme won 3 Grammys in its own right. Over the course of his career, Mancini, who has been called one of the greatest of Hollywood film composers, won 4 Oscars, a Golden Globe, and 20 Grammys, and was known as a pioneer of the inclusion of jazz elements into the late Romantic orchestral film score. Although the role of Clouseau was originally written for David Niven, when the script was finished, they decided he was better suited to the role of the Phantom. When the role of Clouseau was offered to Sellers, the tone of the film was changed to allow more slapstick comedy. Sellers' performance became so popular that the subsequent films featured Clouseau and not the Phantom. The Pink Panther was filmed in Cortina d'Ampezzo, the Cinecittà Studios in Rome, and in Rocco di Papa, Italy, Paris, France, and Los Angeles, California. The famous chase scene was filmed in the Piazza di Repubblica in Rocco di Papa. This was an homage to a similar scene in Alfred Hitchcock's 1940 film, Foreign Correspondent. The ski hotel in Cortina was the Miramonte Grand Hotel. When Sir Charles Lytton steals a cachet of gems and leaves behind a pristine white glove, you can see the Roman Colosseum in the background. George Lytton, Sir Charles' ne'er-do-well nephew, escapes from his debtors by running across Vine Street in Hollywood. Madame Clouseau hands over the fortune in gems to a contact on the Place d'Aragon on the Ile Saint-Louis in Paris, and before the police arrive, ducks into the Hotel Carrère for a quick costume change so she can outwit les flics. Plot summary. A bumbling French detective, Inspector Jacques Clouseau, is obsessed with his desire to capture a glamorous jewel thief known as the Phantom. Together with his beautiful wife, he travels to Switzerland in pursuit of his elusive quarry and the stunning pink diamond known as the Pink Panther. Clouseau suspects the debonair Sir Charles Lytton of being the Phantom and sets out to capture him before he can abscond with the diamond. Blissfully unaware that someone very close to him is aiding and abetting the would-be jewel thief, the clumsy cop bumbles on, desperately searching for his nemesis. Will Clouseau save the day, or will the Phantom escape with the priceless gem? Fun facts about the film. Sellers was inspired by Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd, Laurel and Hardy to develop the role of Clouseau. Blake Edwards chose the final cartoon version of the Pink Panther from over 100 examples drawn by Pratt and Frayling. Sellers was somewhat overweight and had a bit of a hangdog look. He envied Wagner's appearance, so he undertook a grueling diet that included excessive use of diet pills and an extensive exercise regimen. This probably contributed to the heart attack he suffered shortly before the film was released. Claudia Cardinale could not speak English, so her lines were dubbed by 20-year-old Gail Garnett. In the bath scene with Capucine and Robert Wagner, an industrial-strength foaming agent was used, which burned both the stars' skin. Wagner, who was completely immersed at one point, was blinded for 4 weeks. Edwards had to employ multiple cameras to capture the many improvisations he had encouraged Sellers to do. 2 weeks before filming commenced, Ava Gardner, who was to play Madame Clouseau, was dumped from the cast. This caused Peter Ustinov, who has been cast as Clouseau, to drop out too. Thus, Capucine and Sellers found their way into the movie, and from this chaos, Sellers became an international sensation. Edwards, who thought Sellers was a comic genius, worked extensively with Sellers to develop the Clouseau character. Yves Saint Laurent designed the clothes for Capucine and Claudia Cardinale. This was his first Hollywood gig. Clouseau's violin playing is an homage to another great violin-playing detective, Sherlock Holmes. Sellers was paid £90,000 for his role. Mel Zouaster, a PLO representative and translator, later assassinated in Rome by Israeli agents in retribution for the 1972 Munich bombing and massacre, played the waiter at the cocktail party as an extra. He is seen crossing the room after the fade-out from the news headline, "4 rebels demand princess return fabulous gem." The Pink Panther's color makes it a very rare type 2A diamond, in which some colors are absorbed not by impurities, as in other colored stones, but by a misalignment in atomic structure caused by tectonic pressure. There has never been a real Pink Panther. In one scene, there's a nightclub called Les Nuits, les plus aisés du world, du monde. Translated into English, the name means the most daring nudes in the world. In the beginning of the movie, when the fence is waiting for the stolen goods, he's reading the paper. The back page has a reference to the Green Bay Packers. Packers score 8th in a row. This is a real article, a reference to the 1962 season where they went 13-1, were first in the NFL West, and won the championship game against the New York Giants 16-7. Juliette Prowse has a cameo in the ski crowd, wearing an azure sweater and a leopard-spotted coat. When George Litton runs out into the street in L.A., you can see Hodie's restaurant in the background on the corner of Hollywood and Vine Streets. Things to look for: Henry Mancini's wonderful bouncing theme and score, especially the Pink Panther theme and the song called Meglio Stasera. Hodie's restaurant on the corner of Hollywood and Vine. Saint Laurent's clothes for Capucine and Claudia Cardinale. The animated titles, the Pink Panther character, the chase scene in the Piazza di Repubblica. What is the signature item that the Phantom leaves behind whenever he pulls off a heist? Madame Clouseau is always complaining that she is cold. The voice of Gail Garnett as Princedilla. Look for Juliette Prowse in her azure sweater and leopard-spotted coat. Now it's time to view the Pink Panther. Sit back, settle down. Please remember it may take a few minutes for the film to roll. Enjoy.